Okie dokie. The meeting's up on YouTube, so we should be good.
Karen, does that show? Does it show on our screen?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It'll say live on YouTube.
A quick question, is my background too busy? For everybody, because it's too much stuff back there. I mean, hope it doesn't hurt anybody's eyes.
You're good.
Where's your people?
Apparently they just pop on at the last minute. Except for Solomon.
I'm going for those brownie points, you know how it is. Real quick, are you guys ready for Christmas? I'll tell you right now, I am not.
Yes and no. I see Ryan in the waiting room. Do you want me to let people in, Karen?
Can you hear me, Janelle?
I can. Good morning, Ryan. Are you in the office?
I am.
Do you live in Carson?
I do.
Oh.
That's a little easier.
I'm at home in Northwest Reno.
How much snow you guys got?
I don't know. If I judge it by the car,
Yeah.
probably about 6.
Oh, really?
6+ inches.
Nice. Yeah, we only got 2 or 3 down here.
I don't know what's on the ground if you measure by a ruler or whatever.
Sounds like you got more than us, so. Yeah.
Good morning, Craig.
There we go. Good morning. We got about 5 inches of pretty wet snow where I live. Real pretty.
Yeah, that's what I think too. And it's snowing up a real fine snow right now.
Did lose a couple branches because of everything was wet from the rain, but good rain, boy. That was great.
The snow weighs like 800 pounds down here.
It's a lot.
Hi, Lorraine.
Good morning, everyone. We're just waiting for more people to pop on. Lorraine, we need one more for a quorum, but I know people were coming, so maybe we wait a couple of minutes. before
Sure,
we
that
start
sounds good.
so that,
Yeah.
people come. And for those who are here already, I'm almost positive we're not going all day. We'll just hopefully be done by noon. We'll see. Okay, Lorraine, if you want to go ahead and begin.
Okay. Okay, let's go
Sorry.
ahead. Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. And I would like to call this meeting of the Nevada Hazard Mitigation Working Group to order at 9 o'clock. Janelle, would you please call the roll?
Sure, Stephen Akra,
Here.
Solomay Barton,
Here.
Faith Beekman, Kathy Canfield.
I'm here.
Thank you. Ryan Shane,
Present.
Craig DiPolo,
Present.
Herman Fillmore, Cheryl Gonzalez, Claire Ketchum, Andrew Treelise,
I'm here.
Lorraine,
Present?
Aaron Warnock,
Present.
and Melissa Whipple.
Here.
Thank you. And we do have a quorum, Chair.
Okay, great. With that, I will go ahead and close item 1 and we'll move on to the next agenda item. Agenda item 2 is public comment, and this is a discussion only item. No action may be taken on a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action may be taken. Public comments may be limited to 3 minutes, per person at the, pardon? Public comments may be limited to 3 minutes per person at the discretion of the chair, and comments will not be restricted based on viewpoint. To provide testimony or comment during this period of public comment via telephone, please call in by dialing 669-219-2599. When prompted to provide the meeting ID, please enter 686-738-8625 and then press the pound key. When prompted for a participant ID, just go ahead and press the pound key again. When asked to provide public comment, please press *6 to unmute your phone and *6 again when your comments are complete. Please remember that the YouTube stream will be 60 to 90 seconds behind the live meeting. So if you want to present public comment, go ahead and call in using the above number so you can hear the meeting live. I will now open the meeting for any public comment. Is there anyone on YouTube? Okay. Just wait a little bit longer in case anybody's figuring out how to unmute themselves. Okay, well, hearing none, I will go ahead and close agenda item 2 and move to the next agenda item, which is number 3. Agenda item 3 is the approval of minutes. This item is for discussion and possible action. The working group will discuss and review the minutes of the September 27th, 2021 working group meeting. And the working group will determine whether to approve the meeting minutes. And I'll open this up for discussion.
Craig DiPolo will move to approve the minutes.
Okay, and can we get a second, please?
Andrew Trulli, second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Craig DiPolo and a second by Andrew Trelise. Is there any further or any discussion before we move on? Okay, all in favor, please say yay.
Yay.
Okay,
Okay, if anyone is opposed, please say nay. Okay, well, with that, the motion carries and we will move on to agenda item 4. Item 4, we're calling this a community focus, and we will have a presentation from North Las Vegas, a hazard presentation. This is for discussion only. Today we have Salome Barton from the North Las Vegas Emergency Management. She will brief the working group on North Las Vegas area hazards and the city demographics. Discussion will provide opportunity for the working group to hear hazard concerns for this community focus and to allow further discussion for possible future mitigation projects. Please go ahead, Ms. Barton.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having me this morning and for this opportunity to highlight a little bit of what, where our city is and where it came from and how much it has grown so far and where we're heading. Real quick, next slide, please. Well, the city of North Las Vegas was incorporated in 1946. It's currently encompasses 130 square miles within Clark County in the southern Nevada. And from 2000 to approximately 2019, the city's population has grown by approximately 118.1%, making it home to about 251,976. That's as of 2019. But right now, currently, it is at about 265,000, with an estimated reach of 622,000 people in 2035. And North Las Vegas obviously continues to shine as a major industrial center, probably because we have a lot of land out to, to build upon and grow, okay, across, the northern rim of Las Vegas. Basically the industry growth here in North Las Vegas emphasizes on light manufacturing, regional distribution, relocation of high-tech businesses, and of course, custom manufacturing. And one of the things that we do have is, of course, one of the municipal airports is the second busiest airport in the state because it is, where it comes, for business and tour operations. Next, please. And right now, North Las Vegas is about 60% built out, with a majority of remaining land being considered for development. And the greatest percentage of land developed is in a low density residential area. But of course, we're still growing, with residential communities to where we are getting a lot of some of the retirement homes, basically. And down the line, I will mention how we reach out to majority of our vulnerable populations to provide them with preparedness and mitigation efforts, so that way they're prepared for any hazard that presents itself. So this is that some of the community partners that, of course, we have those that are established, and of course those that are coming in. And we have, of course, we know about Amazon fulfillment centers, and I think we have a couple of those facilities that have popped up in our jurisdiction. And then we do have Fanatics, which is sports, I guess, merchandise, that they deal with. Tapestry's coming in, groundbreaking pretty soon. And then obviously the other one that is Air Liquide, which is a high hazard facility that is going to expected to open in November towards our CAPEX areas. And next one, please. And then the city is exposed to many hazards that have the potential to disrupt the community and cause damage and create casualties, of course. And through an extensive multi-jurisdictional and state collaboration in conducting a thorough threat and hazard identification and risk assessment, which is a THIRA, has garnered a comprehensive hazard mitigation plan. And with the updated plan, the city has conducted a consequence analysis for each of the top hazards to prioritize actions for each applicable hazard. And the city may be subject to a variety of natural, technology, and human-caused hazards. And of course, those include and could happen anywhere within the obviously the state and the country, and obviously international, because natural hazards happen everywhere, including technological hazards, and of course human-caused threats that do come up. And I would like with natural hazards, earthquakes are one of the main hazards that we do have here in Southern Nevada. That's one of our main threats, being that North Las Vegas is literally on the fault, which is Frenchman's Fault. And so that's one of the hazards that we do try really hard to mitigate against and prepare for, because it's one of the ones that, that could happen at any time. It could happen tomorrow, it could happen next year, 10 years, 5 years from now. But of course, we are prepared, best as we can to recover from such a hazard. The other thing, obviously, is the technological hazards, which is factory, manufacturer accidents, fires, power outages, and cybersecurity. And North Las Vegas, being that it's growing so much with industrial factories and manufacturing facilities, that's one of the main focuses that we have to work with the community and make sure that we engage with each and every new and whether it's established or new and upcoming, and we understand what it is that they are bringing into our backyards, and knowing how we can work together to, again, mitigate any type of accident that might happen. But of course, if anything does happen, that's beyond anybody's control. We have to be able to make sure that we are ready to mitigate and to keep from further damage from happening, but also to protect the community and the residents within, and our visitors, and all that, everybody that's here. Of course, life safety is always the primary. And then the other thing, of course, is human caused threats and hazards, which hazardous materials we have throughways in and out of North Las Vegas. We have the highway, and of course the railroad, but the highway, Highway 15 runs through, and the transportation of hazardous materials from the north, south, and of course back up from south to north. So we do have that threat that we have to keep aware of, and make sure that we know what's coming in and driving through here. And of course, again, active shooters, which can happen anywhere, whether it's in a office setting or a school, and even hotels, obviously, that we've had that experience, that we are make sure that within the community that we engage everyone to understand what it is that they need to look out for to keep themselves safe internally, and as well as aware of what's outside and it's coming in, and being aware of one's surroundings, and that see something, say something is taken into consideration, and people understand that they do have that avenue of being able to say something if they see, obviously there's something that does not feel right. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned before, high hazard facilities, we have high and moderate, but of course, and low hazard facilities here in North Las Vegas. And some of the high hazard facilities, and like the ones that we showed before, Amazon, Fanatics, and of course, Air Liquide, and we also have another cryogenics facility here that utilize cryogenics to manufacture parts. Those are some of the areas of some facilities that utilize anhydrous ammonia, either food storage or and also natural gas, right? And then liquid nitrogen as well. But those facilities, we make sure that even though they're established, we have to make sure that they keep in contact. And yes, with the personal relationship that we do try to continue and strengthen within our community. We also have that collaboration and with the Nevada EPA office, to where they're always communicating with us and letting us know what's going on, and so that we're all on the same table, and we can and we keep each other abreast of what's going on when it comes to high hazards chemicals and high hazard I guess I can say stuff that's in our backyards. But also we try to engage our residents who are also neighbors with these facilities. Schools are one of the main neighbors, like within a facility that's just down the street or even across the street that would have anhydrous ammonia is one of the chemicals that they utilize in that. So we try to engage all our communities to train and exercise together so that they understand what they are dealing with and how to act in case something does happen, a leak or something. And then also to make sure that those communities are in contact with those facilities that are in their neighborhoods. And to where we do have a program, which is the Community Awareness and Emergency Response Group that we established a few years ago that was very strong until obviously COVID, which COVID did put a damper in a lot of some of the everyday goings on in the whole world literally. But we would like to re-engage that program that brought all the community partners together to include citizens that are part of this group, so that we all understand what to do if something does happen, whether it's a leak or a minor accident or to a major accident. But we also try very hard to make sure that our first responders, which majority of the time when there is an incident, the police is usually the first ones to show up in some of these, until fire shows up, until, because sometimes when 911 is called, the majority of people don't understand what do they need, what kind of assistance do they need. So they say, oh, we need police. When in reality, the incident really, you need that hazardous materials response team, which is the fire department that comes in with all this PPE that's required to fight whatever it is or mitigate that incident. But in this case, what we try to do is make sure that everybody understands when to call, what to, who to call to ask for, and have the proper information to pass on to the emergency center. So that way, when they do send in their response teams, they're sending the right teams the first time, and so that way does not prolong the incident. And of course, there are a number of moderate hazard facilities that we didn't mention before, and then those examples are schools and hospitals and all those other facilities. Okay, recycling plants. Okay, next one, please. And I think we did mention about training, and as you notice, we do not only internal training to make sure that our departments that do respond, because if you think about it, all departments, doesn't matter, it's not just fire or police. We think about utilities are part of their response. Public works is part of the response, and parks and recreation is part of the response. Every single department within jurisdictions, or whether it's local, county, regional, state, we all have those specific departments that do put in their do count as part of the team to make sure that when something does happen, they each have a stake in getting everybody back to where they were, back to normal. So I guess that falls into the resiliency, during the recovery. So that way everybody works together, because everybody has a stake in the whole thing. And then what we also do is look out for our vulnerable communities, vulnerable citizens, to provide them with the right tools and showing them rather letting them know, to understand that they do have good support from their constituents, or I guess you can say from their city, because they do pay the taxes, and they are we need to make sure that they get their 100% of what we can provide them. But of course, it also stems from, we have to start at the bottom. We start as individuals, coming in and say, it starts with us, like myself, to make sure that even at my home, that I am prepared to say, I can take care of myself and my family before I rely on the fire department to come in and help me, or the city to come in and help me, the county to come in and help me. And of course, with a large incident, the local jurisdiction might not be able to take care of it, so they reach out to county. County might not be able to take care of it, reach out to the state, and so forth. We train them to understand that they have to rely on themselves first before they reach out to their local government, state government. And of course, if the state can't do it and it's a major disaster, we do make them understand that they have to help themselves first, have those internal and personal mitigation strategies, I guess you want to, because before they ask for state or federal assistance in any way, they have to show that they actually tried to help themselves and not rely on state and federal assistance all the way through. Next, please. Next slide. Okay, thank you so much. And overall, of course, one of the things that I wanted to highlight was the steps that it takes. There's obviously five steps in the process of day-to-day operations of getting, planning activities. It takes planning activities, that are conducted within a jurisdiction that from beginning to end, to the point of having that emergency operations plan that could be utilized during an emergency, whether it's small or large, to guide people on on how to respond, mitigate, and of course, all the way to protect, and all the way to recovery, to where it could shorten that recovery time frame. But of course, with a large incident, and of course, considering COVID, look how long it's gone, and we're still in that sort of response, and obviously within recovery, and hopefully hopefully soon we'll be back to normal, hopefully. But in this case, obviously there are steps that it takes, to get there. And right now, that one of the steps is to have a comparative analysis of the current emergency plan, which all jurisdictions and all, whether it's a private facility, they should have an emergency response plan, which is an annual requirement to be submitted to their direct jurisdictional emergency management division, to the Clark County Emergency Management, as well as the state have to make sure that they do submit those updated plans to the state. And those plans, and so where they can obviously identify the threats, hazards most likely to affect, in this case, our city, based on the community's vulnerability in accordance with, and of course, I'm getting some of this information from our EOP, with our current 2018 Clark County multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan and other relevant plans that we do have in our library. And then, of course, the second step is to incorporate the latest science and industry standards. Of course, consequence analysis and capability assessments. And then the third step would be involving the comprehensive review by the affected department, supporting agencies in Nevada Division of Emergency Management, our partner, to include protection of critical infrastructure and key resources, which some of those facilities that I did mention, like schools and hotels and our hospitals and our, obviously government facilities, all are considered critical infrastructure and key resources, because without them, if you think about it, continuity of operations, without some of those facilities, we really wouldn't be able to continue, our operations and providing the service to our communities. And then, of course, lastly, is the fifth step, which is the latest draft of the plan, which is the emergency operations plan. And right now, for us, we have had our review, and again, one of the requirements is by the state is to review our operations plans and to include our COOPs and all our other relevant plans annually, and provide that report to the state to make sure that we are meeting those requirements, but also do within, I believe, 3 years to 5 years, do a thorough revision if it's required to do so. And of course, in situations like that, we had to do ours this year, and it had to go up to council, which is going tomorrow, which is a great thing. So that way we can meet the deadline by December 31st to have our updated, fully revised and updated emergency operations plan that we will submit after it's been approved and promulgated by our state and signed by our city manager. Excuse my fumble there. But again, one of the things too is to have a close relationship with our community partners, to include the residents, which is one of the main things. And what we do in that respect is to provide them with the training, not only having preparedness, and we do call them preparedness, but it's more of a preparedness and mitigation presentations to teach them on how to help themselves prepare for any kind of emergency or disaster, for every little bit that they can do for themselves and their neighbor. It could really help in the response so that if they can assist their neighbors, those that cannot help themselves, then that puts, alleviates or it takes away a little bit of what, when the first responders come in to assist, they have less of, well, maybe I guess that's my thought, but it will be less, time that it will take for them to go from house to house, knowing full well that, what, our neighbor helped this other neighbor evacuate, because it didn't just, but at least in this way they evacuated, they had enough for 3 to 4 or 5 days. And right now I have extended it from 5 to 7. So that way people are aware that it could be 1 day, it could be 7 days prior to a local, state, or even federal assistance to come in. And of course, understanding how we can work together, so community, and maintaining that open dialogue with our community partners and keeping them engaged by including them in training classes, which we do always, and exercises can strengthen the relationship. And what we've also done is to train private entities. And I know some of our partners, like the resort partners, the hotels, they have, NIMS, they've taken that and adopted it in ICS. But some of our other facilities and our other partners, like the private ones, we have gotten a few that have requested training in ICS. So if we can bring them to the table to understand that aspect of it, when it comes to when something does happen in their facility, they can take that training and use it and utilize, so that way, when it comes to and they come to understand that there's unified command, to where they can work together. Not when the fire department, police department comes, we don't want to take over that program, because they know their facility, they know the product they have. They need to be part of the team, be on the table to understand what is it they can bring to the table to assist in our those that are running the incident, assist them to run the incident, so that way we could mitigate the issue and incident faster, to where everybody is on the same page and they're working together for the common goal. And of course, preparedness and mitigation leads to resiliency during recovery. And I think the more we engage with our partners, and it starts with us as individuals, and understanding that if we don't do our part as individuals, then it makes the local, state, and of course the our federal partners, makes it harder for them to assist in any way we can. And we have to understand that we cannot always rely on the government to come in and protect, rather not necessarily protect, but come in and save the day, when we as individuals can do that ourselves from beginning until, of course, it gets too big for us to take care of on our own. And I hope if anybody, next one, please. Thank you. I hope I didn't go off on a tangent there. And of course, we got our, so all the areas that I did my references, and of course the Fifth IRA, most current one, 2018, and the Clark County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan, and of course our 2021 CNLV All Hazard Operations Plans were one of my reference points. That and as soon as our EOP is approved and signed, it will be submitted to the state by the 31st of December. But if anybody would like a copy of that, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to provide that. And next slide, please. So I think that's it for me. I hope I didn't talk too much or too fast, but if anybody has any questions, please ask. Thank you for your time.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Salome. And right now I would like to go ahead and open this up for discussion. If anyone has any comments or questions.
Well, I was happy to hear this, Craig DiPolo. I was happy to hear the Frenchman Mountain faults being considered. That's important. We just, a little news, we dated some of the last events on the Frenchman Mountain fault recently, and we have an event around 54,000 years ago, and then we have two smaller events at 27 and 25,000 years ago. So, and then nothing since then. And so the hazard of that fault could go up just a little bit. If they do a conditional probability, there's line of reasoning that would say it's ready to have another earthquake, if you will. The other fault that's important for North Las Vegas is the Eglinton fault in the Aliante area. And that one is in the building codes pretty strongly. So, and the last thing I'll mention is that there is a distinct basin effect in Las Vegas Valley, which we really haven't incorporated into the building codes yet. And it still needs to be defined better with some measurements and things, but it has been demonstrated. And the effects are some of the strongest in North Las Vegas, and that could be because the basin is about 2 times deeper in North Las Vegas than it is in a lot of the rest of the valley. So I'm glad to hear seismic design and earthquakes are on the radar screen. It's for a growing community, there's the opportunity to build with nature and incorporate these things. So when an earthquake does occur, you can dust yourselves off and get back to work, if you will. So anyway, good job.
Thank you so much. Craig, maybe one, just a little bit, I would like to speak with you on that so you can educate me a little bit more on the Eglinton fault, so that way I could get a little more understanding of that one.
Sure, be happy to. And I actually was working on Las Vegas as a whole and didn't really have time to get a presentation together for this, but I'd be happy to talk to you sometime about that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, is there anyone else with any questions or comments? Okay, well, I just had a couple of observations. I know you mentioned, Salome, having people having the knowledge to have several days worth of food, water, medication, things like that on hand. And I think really this recent tornado incident in Kentucky and that part of the country really should make people more aware when you look at the devastation and you think, oh, FEMA will come in, or, you know, the state will help us. But when houses are completely destroyed and it's such a huge, massive scale that it's definitely going to take a while until anyone can get there to help you. So I think that was really good point. Teaching citizens how to prepare in advance and not just depend on the state or FEMA to come in.
Oh, exactly. Thank you so much for pointing that out. And that is our goal. And what we try to do is to help them understand that. I mean, some of the preparedness presentations that we've had, and you know, obviously it used to be 3 to 5 days again. You know, so we've added 5 to 7. You know, but we got also have tried to understand that the majority of people cannot have 5 to 7 days worth of water per se, because you know that would be a lot to carry. But in this case, you know, we try to, you know, get them to understand how to minimize, to have enough, but yet to, you know, what kind of, we try not to do too much of a sales pitch, but to guide them accordingly to say, you know what, cases of water versus, you know, let's say 2 or 3 gallons of those carry jugs. If you're going to take 3 cases of water, you can get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of those gallons, which are lighter and easier to carry than the bottles of water. So we try to educate them as best as we can, but also to and majority of the time we tell people, you know, you have a flashlight in your vehicle and putting a small kit in your car. Sometimes you get in situations where your car is damaged during that time, but how about putting your kit in a roller, one of those Pelican cases, if you can't get one of those, but one of those Tupperwares that you can literally roll down the street and, you know, and take with you. And it's little things. And we do try our best to get those, again, the vulnerable communities engaged as much as possible.
Definitely, that's a really good consideration. Maybe people who have mobility or other special needs that need to be met, that people need to kind of take that into consideration.
Exactly.
And then, Yeah, one other quick question is, if there's a company transporting hazardous material that's going to come through North Las Vegas, do they need to let you know? Is there any kind of a, like they're letting you know, okay, the railroad is coming through and we've got whatever, radioactive or some kind of waste? Do they let the city know about that? Or is it just pretty much you'll find out if it happens?
You know, throughout the, you know, our collaborations and, you know, and with the Nevada test site and all those other NNSS, the NV, I mean, sorry, the DOE, which is really just down the street from our office here. You know, I think what they've done is they try to notify. You know, sometimes you, but not necessarily as emergency management, but I believe that they would, Clark County Emergency Management should be notified, and then they would, you know, let us know, because of course they pass through so many other jurisdictions before they get here. So, you know, and that's one of the things that I think that having that relationship with the EPA's office, you know, the Nevada EPA's office, they try to notify. Sometimes we don't know, and they've gone through and finding out, you know, that, oh, by the way, you know, this has happened, and we just, you know, we're glad nothing did happen. But in this case, that's our goal, is hopefully that we have more of a communication in that respect.
Okay, thank you. Were there any other comments or questions? Maybe anyone on the phones or on YouTube?
Hey, Lorraine, it's Janelle.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to, since you guys brought it up, and Salome, you did such a beautiful job on your presentation, and these community-focused presentations are really important to this working group to understand the different areas throughout our state, and in developing our mitigation and seeing how we can help, how this committee can help our communities move forward. But I'm just going to make a little bit of a public announcement here for the 2 weeks ready that the earthquake program managers are promoting now, because we've always been used to that 3 days, and I know you guys have gone out to a week, which is fantastic. And you know, we really are kind of trying to educate on the 2 weeks ready program that allows people to be ready for 2 weeks, because in a situation, you know, perhaps these communities that were kind of wiped off the map with the tornado are going to have to go somewhere else. So probably, you know, their kits aren't going to be a lot of help to them, maybe, unless they can find them and or still have them. They can blow away somewhere or get destroyed. But you know, certainly anybody who's, you know, properties were damaged, you know, they're without electricity or without something, you know, to have these kits. And one of the things you can really do is build it gradually. You know, you would mention, Salome, about the water being, you know, heavy to carry a lot of water. But even for myself, not for emergency purposes, I've been trying to, you know, get some, you know, gallons of water just to have for different reasons for myself. And I just do that little by little, maybe buy 2 at the grocery store when I go. But, you know, you can build your kits gradually. You don't have to invest in it all at once, because that can cost a lot of money as well. So just a public service announcement for that. And I'm hoping that, you know, we're still new group and we're very quiet, but I'm hoping that we're going to get more discussion on things as we go along, and people feel more comfortable talking in front of each other and that type of thing. So thanks again, Salome. It was excellent.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
You know,
Yeah.
on personal supplies, I think a great thing to do is kind of incorporate them into your routine. So you're kind of using them through time and replenishing them, and not just coming and having a bunch of stale rice or something to eat in an emergency. But if you can get into a routine where you have a pantry and you kind of have that much food on hand, if you will, but then kind of go through it. And maybe we learned a bit with the pandemic and all, but that helps keep it fresh, keeps it in your mind, and you don't just end up going out to a rusty trash can that you've got all your stuff in, and it's all dated and all. But just
Oh, I totally agree. And one of the things too that we do down here, and I think, I don't know if up north you guys get a chance to do this, but we used to have this program where we have that preparedness kit cook-off, to where we go around and work with, actually it's a community engagement activity to where we get people to say, you know what, it's an annual, so we're going to go in and rotate all your kit food, the food in, in all your kits. So what can you make with whatever you have? You could have Twinkies in there and marshmallows, and what can you make? Because most people think Twinkies last forever, so might as well put those in my kit. And then you have lima beans, a can of lima beans, and a bottle of water. Okay, out of those 4 things that you have, what can you make as a dish out of majority of people are like, I can't. So what is it that you can get? Couscous, any of those dry, you can get mac and cheese, a box of mac and cheese, put that in there. But most people don't understand too that even canned goods need to be rotated, because you can have a can in there that's been in there for 25 years, that should have been rotated because it's all bulging and ready to rusted. So obviously you don't want to try to eat that. So I think what we've done too is we've tried really hard is to provide people with that avenue and say, hey, you know what? It's this time of year. Let's rotate out our items in our kits, and including water, because as Janelle said, you go out and if you can get 2 gallons, you can get. So you take the water that's in your kit, take that water out, use it, and replace it with a new. So basically you're rotating. So whenever you go to the grocery store, use up what's been in the garage for a little while, because hey, it's in a cool and covered, a cool area, hopefully, that you can use that now and just keep putting the new, so that way you are rotating things out. But also the other thing too that we do try to point out and say, we all replace shoes, whether it's tennis shoes. We have T-shirts that are, they're worn out. Sometimes we use them as rags, but you know what? Sweatpants, I sit there, socks, some of those old tennis shoes, if they still fit, throw a pair of those. If you buy new ones, throw a pair of those in the kit. And so, you know what, if anything ever happens, you have a pair of shoes, you have some sweats, you have a pair of sweatpants in there that just because you don't wear it anymore, this doesn't mean you can't use it. Because when it comes to you, that could be the only thing you have to change out of, because you ran out so fast, right? And so, but those are things that we obviously don't think about. And also, when it comes again, the vulnerable community, which is children, who, as families, we always think of what they need. So we say, you know what, I'm going to have my kids' clothes. I'm going to have you get their needs met all the time. But what about that emotional need that they would like? Some kids, little ones, have a teddy bear. They have a blankie. They have something that could be something that could help them emotionally, when you take care of their physical and their, and then one of those, you can tell them, hey, why don't you create your little, disaster kit or preparedness kit? And that's where we partner with American Red Cross, which has a great program, which is the pillowcase program, where they train children on how to create their own go kits and put in what they deem important to them. It's something that that they'll grab first, because at the end of the day, the parents are going to meet their other needs, rather, and always forget that little teddy bear, always forget that little, and we always replace things, but you can take the one that they don't play with so much and put that in there. Tell them, hey, why don't you put in, reserve it, save that for later, And so, yes, programs like that really go a long way. And again, partnerships, building them and strengthening them, and continuing to exercise and train together really helps.
Okay, thank you. That's all good stuff to think about. Is there anyone else who had anything to add? Okay, hearing none, if there's no further discussion, I would like to go ahead and close agenda item 4 and we'll move on to number 5. Agenda item 5 is the Nevada Enhanced State Hazard Mitigation Plan status update. This item is for discussion only, and we have Janelle Woodward, who is the mitigation officer for the Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. Ms. Woodward will provide a briefing to the working group on the status of the current 5-year update cycle of the Nevada Enhanced State Hazard Mitigation Plan, HMP, which is due by October 2023. This discussion will include the process to complete the required 5-year update of the state plan and where this process is currently, and then the timeline of the update. So if you would please go ahead, Ms. Woodward.
Thank you. So most of this we talked about last quarter in September, where we went through that list of information that kind of showed the timeline of how or when things need to be done. Different portions of the plan need to be updated. I think all of you are aware, or hopefully you're all aware, it's about 1,200 pages long. So 2 big, like 5-inch binders that I have near my desk, holding all that information in hard copy, and then of course online for anybody's availability to look at any portions of that. Currently, we are in the process of putting together an RFP to go out for bid to have somebody, to hire a company to update our plan. We've traditionally utilized the Bureau of Mines and Geology, Craig DiPolo's group, that has done an amazing job in the past. Unfortunately, over the last probably 6 months, we had some roadblocks that prevented us from moving forward, and the Bureau was had some changes and they were no longer able to do our update this year. So part of that work is already done. Currently, all of the different hazard areas have been sent out to the subject matter experts who are in the process of updating those. They're due back in January. And we do already have back the weather portion of that. So Chris Smallcombe has already submitted that to us. So that's kind of where we sit. Once we get these completed portions back, we'll be bringing them back for review by this committee, who will approve as we go along step by step that final finalization of those different sections. One of the things we are working on currently is an addition or amendment to our state plan with adding mitigation actions in the back section to allow for the rain. Would you have your coworkers be quiet? Just kidding. We all love our pets that get into our meetings, don't we? Part of the family. We are adding drought to our section for mitigation actions, because that's one of the pushes for the funding that came out with the HMGP that we received from COVID. So that $13.5 million, one of the focuses is doing some drought projects. So we do not currently have that in our plan. We have a drought section in the hazard area, but it's not included in our mitigation action section. So that mitigation action section includes our top 3 hazards: earthquake, flood, and wildfire, and actions for that, and of course, actions for life safety. But what we need to do, one of the feedback issues that we had from FEMA in the last update was to expand on that so that those added types of projects are available. The only types of projects we're able to apply for is are ones that are included in that mitigation action section. So like with pandemic coming up, that was always a low number on our hazard. And we found out over the last 2 years exactly how pandemic can affect us for a long period of time. So currently, we do not have a method to apply for any projects that would be pandemic related, because they were not included in, at least at the state level. And I'm not talking about any local county plans, but just the state plan. They're not included in there. So we need to expand on that list. And so doing an update, an amendment to our plan that will simply just go from the state to FEMA for approval will allow us to apply for those extra things. So right now the focus is drought, and we are, there is a small group of people working with EPA and with NDEP on coming up with projects that would be wide enough in their wording to allow us to do the most types of projects that we might think may come up. And then of course, in our full plan update, that would all be part of that as well. That'll come through, again, this committee. So that is, I think, again, we said that the plan is due in October of 2023. So October 20th of 2023 is when the plan expires. So we want to have our plan updated, fully updated, and submitted to FEMA prior to that time, probably about 3 months or so ahead of time. So they have time to look at that plan, review it against the enhanced status, and then approve that before it expires. And so that's part of what we'll be doing. And once we get a contractor on board, they will also work with this committee, with regard to that update. So I will open or allow for any questions on our state hazard mitigation plan update.
Janelle, I was wondering, I think we had talked a little bit about extreme weather and the effects of, flooding, snow, and most recently high extreme temperatures, which I know Southern Nevada really suffered from, and even as far north as Portland, Oregon. So that could easily include some of Northern Nevada. Is are extreme weather events included in our plan or in the state's plan?
Yes, of course.
Okay,
So we look at both, high wind events, which of course we have with all the wind we have here. Certainly the snow and cold weather events, and then the high heat. All of those are all included in that weather portion update. And I think Ryan has his hand up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good morning. I just wondered, when you hire this contractor, should we expect them to be knocking on our doors as agencies to be soliciting information, and you expect us to then provide information so that they can help create a robust report? Is that kind of are my assumptions accurate?
Well, they probably won't knock on your door particularly, but if I haven't mentioned it already, because Ryan, for any of you who know, John Christopherson has resigned. He's retired, and so is no longer on this committee, and he was replaced by the Division of Forestry with Ryan Chain on this committee. And Ryan, I probably neglected to tell you that the wildfire section sat with John. So your division, not necessarily you, if you task that out, to somebody else, that's up to you. I don't think they'll necessarily knock on your door for additional information. They would come to the committee meeting and ask for that information collectively among the entire committee. And so everybody will have input, and as we have a completed section, as I said, we'll go through that as a committee, review that, see if there are any questions or comments that come up. So everybody will know actually what's going into our plan. So we'll go over those sections, and that contractor would be responsible to kind of guide us through that process. As I said before, the geology did a magnificent job in all these past years. And it's unfortunate that they had some change in staffing in that and delays from our side where we were unable to make that work for this go around, but they did a lot of the prep work going into this. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, a little bit. I was involved with the last 5-year review, and the wildfire section is obviously the one that we're most involved in independently. And I just wondered what the change in operations would look like in terms of updating the sections and, just how things would roll differently with the contractor involved is all.
So we've always had a contractor involved, but that was the Bureau of Mines and Geology, who was another state agency. So it wasn't quite the same as an outside contractor, but the plan or the portion that you guys would update. So the difference between the last update and this update is that we don't have the subcommittee that was made up of all of those subject matter experts. So what we've done is kind of parse out all these different hazard from section 3 and given those to the subject matter experts outside of this committee. So they're not part of a committee at all. And then they'll get those sections back to us. And then we as the committee, the working group, will actually kind of work to make sure those are in a formal final format. And ready then to complete that section. That's the largest section of the hazard mitigation plan. Section 3, which is the hazards that are all listed out that need to be, looked at and updated, include, some information on climate change and how that may or may not affect any given hazard. And Craig, I don't know if you have anything to add into that or not, having done this so many times.
Yeah, it is too bad we lost so much personnel. We're without any secretaries right now, so it's kind of challenging. The big emphasis this year is on getting all the mitigation actions you can think about into the plan so that if somebody wants to do something, they can. I wonder on fire, I haven't looked at it in a while, but I know there may be some mitigative actions individuals could take that might be highlighted there. For example, up north, we've been having these late fall, early winter possibilities with the drought of fire. And sometimes you have your wood up on the porch for that. And Aaron Kennison told me one time, well, get some welding blankets. And if there is a fire, cover them all with welding blankets and that'll help out. And I thought that was a great idea. I got myself a bunch of welding blankets. If the time comes, I'll cover them with that. If there's if that makes sense and there's suggestions like that, I'd really encourage people to get them in. But having a plethora, even if they're almost one line item mentions of different mitigation actions that might be taken in the next 5 years, it's really important. As Janelle was mentioning, there's some stuff that can't be done on the pandemic because it was there potentially. I find that amazing, but anyway, that's the way it is. So just, that's the only mention. It is rolling along. A lot of the, as Janelle mentioned, we were working on it. So it's on the road for sure.
Thank you. That's helpful. I appreciate the suggestions and responses.
Okay, was there anyone participating through YouTube on the phone who'd like to comment or have questions? Just wait a couple seconds here to see if there's anyone else wanting to join or hear who has questions. Okay, well, hearing none. I will go ahead and close agenda item 5 and we can move on to item 6. And just kind of as a sidebar here, I don't think we're going to be taking an official break since we're all operating remotely. So if you do need to go take care of something, just, go ahead. It's going to be kind of informal today. So anyhow, item 6 on the agenda is the mitigation grants update. This item is for discussion only. And again, we have Ms. Woodward, the mitigation officer from DEM and Homeland Security. Ms. Woodward will provide an update of current mitigation grant opportunities and available funding for the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities, also known as BRIC, and the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, which is HMGP, and also the HMGP post-fire programs. So if you would please just go ahead, Ms. Woodward, we'll move on to that.
Thank you. I think you guys are going to get tired of hearing from me pretty soon. So just briefly on the opportunities that are available, the BRIC program is open right now. We had a deadline of December 3rd for reporting or completing their applications in the FEMA Go system, which is the application system for the BRIC program. This also includes the FMA, or the flood mitigation, flood mitigation assistance. We never use that. So I always forget what it actually stands for, but it's not that we haven't applied for it. We just don't usually get those flood mitigation grants. So typically over the past, we have applied to, when we have something that fits that situation, it's applied for both in the pre-disaster mitigation, or now called BRIC, previously PDM, as well as the FMA program. And I know that Aaron and I have talked about finding a way to see how we can utilize that program in the future, even if it's just for planning type activities related to flood. What we have in the set aside, the state set aside, is $1 million this year. What we're going to go over in our grant applications does not reach that $1 million. So I will be continuing to try to get people to apply for that leftover funding that's set aside. So we're only, the only competition would be within our state, although because we don't get a lot of applications in Nevada, there really is little competition there. So typically, if you have something, it's most likely to get funded as long as it's an eligible project in that set aside. So $1 million is the most we've ever had for that set aside. So we certainly want to use the funding that's on the table. So I will be reaching out. I've already talked to Washoe County about a potential project, so they may do a project scoping there. And then, of course, we have $1 billion for competitive projects. We only have one project this year so far, and we typically don't get a lot of the nationally competitive applications either. So the next is the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. That's the funding that we received through because of the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, and that's approximately $13.5 million. I have one application so far completed already for that program. Those applications are due to FEMA by August 5th. Of course, I put a deadline of June 30th so that we have time to review those applications for completeness prior to submitting those. And of course, we can also submit as we go along. We don't have to wait until the end. My coworker's just acting up now. I want to back up with the BRIC program. Those applications are due to FEMA January 28th. So that's where everything absolutely has to be completed. We have to have our state application, which wraps really all of the sub applications under it. And then we submit that whole overall application to FEMA for the BRIC. And we don't want to wait till the last minute. So hopefully we'll be able to do that at least a week ahead of time, because inevitably, if you wait till the last minute, there's going to be some kind of a problem with the system somewhere. And we don't want that. So that's the funding available for BRIC, for the HMGP regular from the COVID. And then finally, the last section of funding we have available, is the HMGP post-fire. These applications are due to FEMA March 31st. So this is funding that comes because as a result of the FMAGs, the Fire Management Assistance Grants that NDF, I think, manages for the local communities when the wildfires happen. And so we have, I think we got 3, so we've probably got a little over $2 million in funding for that. There were 2 FMAGs in Douglas County this past year, and then one in Washoe County. So City of Reno is they're working to get their application completed, but so they're looking, I think, the end of January to submit that application. Douglas County has some ideas. I'm not sure where they're at yet. It's a little bit difficult keeping track of everything when all of our programs are running at the same time. And so for one person doing the whole program is sometimes it's hard to remember where anything is at if people aren't communicating with me. So that's what I know right now. I have a lot of people are interested in submitting applications for the HMGP from COVID. So we'll still be out there trying to spend that $13.5 million. We do not want to we don't want to leave any funding that's set aside for Nevada on the table. If we can do whatever we can do for our state, we want to do. So one of the things that we'd like to see happen is people who have, and this may include any of you that are on the phone, people who have ideas, maybe you're not ready to do a project, but you want to, you know of your hazard, that has an issue, and you maybe have a couple of ideas, but you're not sure exactly which one is the best idea, or you need to get your BCA done, your benefit cost analysis done for a project. You can do a project scoping with BRIC. You can do an advanced assistance, same thing with the HMGP, post-disaster still calls it advanced assistance. And those allow you to take that time and get seed funding to allow you to figure out exactly what you want to do, so that you don't have to know that right this minute. You can take 3 years to figure out what you want to do. And of course, all of our grants have a 25% match, which can be in kind or cash. And as you'll see in the next item, when I go through the BRIC things, you'll see that even for us at DEM, we're about 95% plus grant funded. So we can't match any of our own grants. So if we put in a grant, which I have an application put together, we have to go outside and say, hey, is there some way you can help us by matching this grant for us? And so that's what I'm in the middle of right now. So you'll see that part is not completed. So that's what I have for the mitigation grants update. And again, I can answer any questions.
This is Steve over at Housing. Thanks for providing that, Janelle. Don't really have any questions on what you've presented. I do have some questions. That seems like the most appropriate place to ask. Was there any grant opportunities provided in the infrastructure bill for emergency management? Or is there any consideration of that in Build Back Better? And I know that's conjecture at this point as far as what might come out, but just kind of wanted your thoughts on that. What if there's any opportunities coming forward?
So I'll preface this with the fact that I'm not the expert on the infrastructure bill, because none of that funding comes through us at emergency management. But I do know from talking to NDEP and the revolving, I think it's, what is it called? I'm going to forget. They have state revolving funds, I think is what the grant or what the program is called. And they have talked about a lot of opportunity coming to the state for different infrastructure type projects, which is kind of goes along with BRIC, which is also infrastructure. So there are some different opportunities out there. I'm not sure of the timing of that. So I don't know if I can really gave you much of an answer, but it's probably about the best I can do on the infrastructure. And Build Back Better, of course, is not signed yet. So we're not sure exactly what that's going to include, but it seems to be sending a lot of money out to the many states.
No, that's fine. Thank you. I was just looking for a little insight if anything had been established yet that you're aware of. So thanks for the update.
I don't know what order you guys went in, but Andrew, you want to go ahead?
Okay, thanks. Janelle, I was wondering, and I can't remember how it started with the BRIC, but does the BRIC funding require a disaster declaration in the state?
No, it does not. The BRIC program is just, I'm going to say just like PDM, but it's not PDM. So the big requirement with the BRIC has been building codes that have been kind of added as a scoring option with what they're asking for in the NOFO. Nevada and many other states in the country don't have statewide building codes. We adopt at the local level. So that kind of works against us because we don't get those extra points for for having statewide building codes. I'm hoping down the road that eventually FEMA will change that, because this is the second year, so it was that way last year. It's that way this year, but I'm hoping they're hearing those of us who really don't have a mechanism to change our law, state law. And so having, that's a little bit of a disadvantage to us, but we certainly can, write some great applications following what the NOFO does, looking at those technical aspects. That list of technical criteria is an all or nothing. So you either get the points or you don't get the points. The qualitative part is where they ask people from the different states to volunteer to review applications. And so those that are considered to be, to meet that technical criteria, then move on to the applications, move on to that qualitative review. And that's where you get maybe a range of points based on, where you fall in you didn't do it at all, maybe you did a little bit, it looks good, or you went above and beyond, that type of, moving kind of lever on those number of points allowable. The people who review only decide where you fall in that scale. They don't apply the points or anything. FEMA does that. That would be where it sits right now. BRIC is not HMGP. HMGP is the disaster and post-disaster, and then BRIC is the new PDM, the pre-disaster mitigation grant.
Thank you. I had one more question in regards to, we had an application in for a levy, essentially, and are levies eligible to be funded through the BRIC program?
Levies did not used to be eligible, but they are now.
Oh.
So if you recall back in 2010, I think you were probably a part of the NIMPIC in the past. They did the projects where the Truckee River Flood Management Authority purchased those buildings and demolished them, and so their PDM was only for the demolition part, not for the purchasing of the property. And then they came back later, and the Army Corps got involved, and Army Corps wanted to put in a levy. And so that crossed the property line on some of those that were demolished. And they ended up having to give that money back to FEMA, because at that point, levies were not allowable. As I understand it right now, they are allowable. And your project that you guys submitted, I think the biggest issue was that they were unable to get to a 1.0 or greater ECA on that, which was unfortunate because of the time period. I think it was just a little bit too much time. So I recommended changing that to a project scoping, which would allow them to get that VCA completed, and then you can apply for the project itself.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's our plan now, but we just want to make sure. My boss was at NAFSMA last week and brought that up, and according to the upper management at FEMA, they weren't aware that levies weren't funded, but we had heard that they weren't eligible, and so we just wanted to make sure, because we had heard other places that they weren't. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and move forward with that in mind, but thank you very much.
Great. That came back to me, by the way. So
I thought it might. That's kind of why I wanted to bring it up. So.
it did, yeah. Is that it? Or do you have anything additional? Okay.
Nope, thank you.
Hey, Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple questions. I might have missed it, but is the HMGP post-fire applications are they due at the same time as a regular HMGP?
No, they're due, those are due to FEMA by March 31st.
Okay,
And so I know that City of Reno is working on an application, at least that's what they told me. I know. But what they've told me is they're working on their application for that. So that should be coming in. And then, of course, the funding is open for, I don't know if they'll use the total amount. That's like approximately, I want to say 778 for each of those applications, or each of those FMICs, I'm sorry. So on the mitigation side, so that's the available funding. And just so everybody's aware, what we do is go to the jurisdictions who had those fires resulting in an FMIG declaration first, to allow them to spend them, but fire does not always spend the full amount that's available. So then I go out and beg anybody else to please apply. And we have had some, a couple, Kathy, you know that Story County put in for some HMGP post-fire leftover funding, as well as did Las Vegas, City of Las Vegas. So, and that was a result of the Governor's Office of Energy getting, and that's also a project of the not poor and impoverished. So just so everybody understands this, poor and impoverished, we have one community in Nevada that meets the legal definition of poor and impoverished, and that's Caliente in Lincoln County. So they are the only ones who meet that legal definition that gives you that 90-10 split. So they only have a 10% match to their project. But we have a whole state full of underserved and disadvantaged communities, which is a huge push of President Biden. So he had the Justice 40 initiative, which meant 40% of the BRIC program has to go to these underserved areas. So I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but we were happy that we had already applied and got funded for a project that fit that criteria with the HMGP post-fire last year. But please do understand that we do try our best to spend that funding on fire projects in the areas that have been affected by the fires, to do something for that. So I don't know if that.
yeah, that was somewhat helpful. Your applications are due to FEMA 3/31
Yes.
of 22. And is there an earlier due date to DEM from partners?
Well, obviously I'd like to get them as soon as I can, because then we can review them, and I have to fill out for every application we submit. I now have to fill out this checklist form from FEMA that shows, you know, that we've gone through the applications and they're as complete as possible. That's where we're checking basically for the same thing that FEMA is checking for. And the idea is to try to avoid these constant RFIs that we get. So to try to go through these checklists, one of the challenges I'm finding is that our some of the questions that are in there are not in the applications. So how would anybody know that FEMA is looking for this until I have opportunity to train people as I'm asking for more information? You know, an example is planning. If, you know, when somebody does a hazard mitigation plan update, some of their questions are asking questions about information that's going to be put into their final plan to be approved by FEMA. But they're asking for some of that information ahead of time. And I think their viewpoint of that is saying, well, this will, yes, it's extra work, but it'll help them in the long run because they're a little bit ahead of the game then, if they're giving some of this information up front. So I have to do a better job of training people that as they're filling out these applications, we need to add this, we need to add that.
Okay, two other quick items. We have some outstanding applications with you guys. Is there any anticipated date at which we would actually receive the funding?
Well, I just sent an email late last night to Ron about the Douglas County, South Douglas project from 2018 that was asking for the posting of the public notice. So that's a 15-day posting. And so as soon as you tell, however you guys post your public information, it does not have to be in a newspaper. It's whatever method you use. So if that's on a website or whatever, or social media, however you do that, it needs to be posted for 15 days. I need to let FEMA know what that date is, and that starts it. And then once that 15 days is done, it probably won't be long until long after that, that project would be funded to move forward.
Okay.
And so there's a couple others that are, I know that I've been contacted by you guys with some issues of a past application for an ALCO project where we need to kind of figure out all of the information, whether you guys are going to still move forward on that. That first year of HMDP post-fire was a little clumsy, or a lot clumsy. But I think that moving forward in the years after that, we haven't given any funding back.
Right. Okay, good. That's appreciated information. Just a note on West Elko. I provided direction to our staff to somehow the lines got crossed and you received information that was not accurate. We had some initial information and then some reviewed and finalized information that I don't think carried through the process all the way. So our staff should be in contact to update you on that and get you accurate information to submit to FEMA. Thank you. Appreciate the answers.
Andrew.
Yes, you brought up a question about an issue with the underserved communities. And I think I know the answer to this, but there was a community that reached out to us in Clark County, in the outlying areas of Clark County, that is, the community itself is very poor, but they're within Clark County. Is it possible that they are still considered underserved or disadvantaged and still be in Clark County?
They would absolutely meet that underserved and disadvantaged community. They just don't meet that legal definition. So there would still be a requirement of 25%, but they certainly meet that criteria of underserved and disadvantaged.
Okay, I didn't know the answer to that. So thank you. That's good information.
So any other questions?
Yeah, Janelle, I just had a question about maybe some of the lesser populated counties putting in like a regional application, if that's something that's that could be doable. Because maybe White Pine County thinks, oh, we don't have, enough going on, but maybe if they included Lander, Eureka, some of the other counties, if that's something that could be done.
You had to ask a hard question. I think it really depends on what the project is, because certainly an application can be put in for a mitigation project that one community takes the lead in, but it benefits multiple areas. So if there would be something, well, for instance, the brick application that we're going to go over is going to be the Hobart Dam project, and that was a previous advanced assistance grant through PDM. And so they applied last year and were not chosen, so they're applying again this year. But that is, a dam up at the lake that is located in Washoe County, but also affects, the water for multiple counties. So those are, when we do things that benefit multiple jurisdictions, that's an added plus when you get into these competitive type grants. So I think the answer would be yes, depending on what the project is.
Okay, thank you. And so crossing state lines, is that also allowed? Like if we had something, Nevada that went into California, maybe a fuel line, or Nevada going into Utah, I think there's a fuel line that comes in that way, or fires that cross state lines, things like that. Was that allowable?
Yes, that is also allowable. FEMA started with those types of projects and had a hard time getting people to apply to that category. So in PDM, in years gone by, they started to promote these multi-state projects. And I think that maybe they got a small handful of those types of projects across the country, but they've definitely changed things. So that would definitely be a plus, and you can definitely go across state lines, but you, again, one state would be responsible for that grant. So if we were doing something with California or Utah or whoever, either us or another state would have to be the person who applied for that grant. But it could be something that benefits both states.
Okay, thank you. And I would just like to put in a plug for Janelle. If anyone's online or listening in that's maybe from one of the counties or some other jurisdictions, she is amazing. She's always available to help if you have questions, provide technical assistance. And I don't know if you're finished for the year, but there have been a series of little weekly kind of webinars and things that have been presented where people can ask questions kind of in an informal environment. So I just want to thank Janelle, for everything that she's done. She's helped our office and some of the counties with some projects. So thank you, Janelle. Okay, well, if there are no further questions or comments, I will go ahead and close out agenda item 6, and we will move on to item 7. 7, we were just talking about it a little bit, is the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities, also known as BRIC, the application review and the ranking, kind of how that works. This item is for discussion and possible action. Janelle Woodward, Ms. Woodward will lead the working group in a review of the submitted fiscal year 2021 BRIC applications. So the working group will evaluate the submitted applications to determine the appropriate submission order for the state BRIC application. And applications for the state set-aside funding, as well as any submitted competitive project applications, will be evaluated. The working group may vote to approve the application submission order which will then be forwarded to the Chief of Emergency Management. And he will do the final approval prior to the state BRIC application submission. So once again, I will turn this over to Ms. Woodward. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And my apologies for switching my screen. I have two screens and I think I'm switching them off to my normal screen so I can look forward, but my shared screen is the other screen. I'm going to start right now with the ranking form or review ranking form that I provided to each of you in the materials that were sent out as well as posted online. This is a form that we are using currently, and it's pretty simplified. In the past, the forms were a little bit more complicated, but I think that this makes it a little bit easier. So I will preface the ranking issue and review issue of the applications in the fact that we don't get a whole lot of applications in Nevada. So it's a little, we are required by FEMA to have a process to review applications and rank them or put them in order, really. It's when we rank, it's not necessarily an issue of will they get funded, but you know, more putting them in order and reviewing those applications. This is going to be more of a training type, going through that process of reviewing. We don't have enough applications to make a difference necessarily in how they're ordered, more so than how we're required to order them, you know, in the different ways that FEMA has set up. You know, out of this $1 million set aside, 600,000 can be used for planning or planning activities, capacity and capability building, and then the total amount of $1 million could be used for projects, project scoping, whatever. And then you have your competitive projects. So that's anything that's going to cost more than a federal amount of $1 million. So those would fall into competitive projects. So what I need from each of you is to fill out these forms. And so you can do it several ways. You can print out some copies and handwrite them. And then I'm going to verbally have you give me, you know, tell me back what your projects or what your orders are for ranking or ordering. But in the end, I'll need you to either scan them or, you know, send me back your electronic versions of these forms so I can have them on record. This form in the Excel spreadsheet, you could go through and fill it out right in that and then just save them individually and then send them to me, you know, for each of there's only 4 total projects that we're going to go over. So you can do it that way, or you can print out 4 pieces of paper and handwrite them and then scan them back, you know, eventually to me. But that is, this is the form. So we'll go through this together. And then I'm going to show you right now how we, I have to apologize. This is FEMA Go is the application system for BRIC. And this is a newer system. The fire grants are already in there. Mitigation, BRIC, and FMA are in there. Although, as some of you know, BRIC from last year has not been awarded yet because it's not complete in the FEMA Go system. So they're a bit behind on creating, you know, this airplane, building the airplane as we fly it, basically. But this is the login sheet. Hopefully you guys can see my homepage for the Welcome to FEMA Grants Outcomes or FEMA Go. But we log in and it brings me to the home page, and then I can go through and look. Now, one of the hassles of the FEMA Go system is that it doesn't sort out your applications at all. it lists everything from last year and this year, so I have to kind of search through those. I think I'm gonna go through the shorter versions first. And we will start with, down here, Washoe County is applying for their hazard mitigation plan update, which is due in 2025. So I'm going to quickly just show you what the application looks like. They've answered all these questions. And basically is because I want you to see what this looks like, but before they are submitted to FEMA, or I'm unable to print it so that you can actually look at a full application. So that's why I'm sharing the screen and log in to show you what the application looks like. I think the basic portion of this is going to be letting you know what the application is for and looking at their scope of work. So they go through, fill out this information, just the preliminary sub-applicant information, their contact information, and their hazard mitigation plan revision is their project. They're going to list all this information about their communities. So the tribes are not listed when they list out the communities. So we have the two cities, Reno Sparks, Washoe County, and then they list out all of this information, and they did a great job talking about the different information about the colonies as well as what the geographical information is. I found it pretty interesting to list or to go through, but that's basically their community information. They can attach anything that they want, so they've attached their maps of the different areas. And we go down and continue on. And again, my apologies that everything is so kind of cumbersome in this. And here they're doing their mitigation plan information they've entered. It's the Washoe County Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan. It's a local multi-jurisdictional multi-hazard plan. And then the date, the approval date was 1/24/2020, and it will be needs to be updated by 2025. So they've got their various participation letters, as well as partner letters, which are what they're calling a partner letter is somebody who is providing or saying, yes, we are going to participate in this. Excuse me. With their scope of work. I'm not sure the best way to do this. There was really no way for me to print this out and send it out. But basically, they've named their plan, and I'll probably have them rename this to include Washoe County, so we know that we're not just looking at a project that's a hazard mitigation plan, but we know whose hazard mitigation plan that is. They're doing a plan update, and it's a local multi-jurisdictional multi-hazard plan. And then they give a geographic description of all of that, which includes the cities, as well as the city as a county, as well as the tribes that are in there. And then they list out the hazard sources. So they ask for a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary. Now, when they do this, actually a plan would be all hazards, but they give you, the way the application is set up is you pick basically the top 3. They go through, now this is the scope of work. So in the past, we were used to seeing a document, and I don't think they included that. Oh, they did. maybe I'll show you this instead. Let me bring this up. My apologies again. I did not, I think this was added because I asked them to add this. But is this large enough for people to, I won't go too big. See, to know what they're doing. So their activities are their plan update and of their plan. And then they've copied in that geographic description. And this is set up, even the application is set up differently than what we were used to seeing in the past, to just give somebody a scope of work that just says, this is what we're doing and how we want to do it, to go through that. So looking through their geographic description, talking about Reno Sparks Indian Colony and the Pyramid Lake Reservation. So going through that, and then talking about their hazard sources and what their evaluation process is going to be for their plan update. These are some of the things that end up in the final version of a hazard mitigation plan that gets submitted to FEMA for, excuse me, for approval, but was also in that checklist. Ryan, you have a question. If you guys want to just unmute yourself and start talking, I'll stop. And you can, we'll make this a little interactive.
So I want to make sure I'm clear with it, because I haven't gone through this process with you guys yet. Are we scoring these live on this meeting, or is this something that's going to happen outside of this meeting and then we return our forms?
You're going to score live. And so we can go through that first one, or we can go through the sheet together. Let's see here. Out of the way.
But we should fill out a score sheet on our side for us personally, correct?
Correct. So this will be your opinion. So like number one, or I mean, the first section would be, you'd fill out that top part, and then this, you'd choose, what is this? A seismic, actually what this is a other not listed above, because it's a planning grant or application. So it would be, I would actually, just give it the 20 points. If it was a project based on one of these other types of project there, you would choose one of those. You can go through site vulnerability. Is it sound mitigation? It reduces hazard effects. And some of this is a little more project oriented versus what a planning grant would be. But you can kind of say, hazard mitigation plans are required by law. So is it sound mitigation? I would say, yeah, but you have your choice. 1 to 10 points on how you choose to do that. You can make any comments you want. Project benefits. And then other considerations are basically a yes or no. And that's it. So all we're asking, and I think in the future, I will revise this to include the planning grants.
Hi, Janelle. Oh, sorry. Hi, this is Kathy. If I'm understanding right, though, aren't we just ranking these between each other to see which one we would put like as the most important one?
Absolutely.
even though
In order.
So even though if we're reviewing it and all of them could be, yes, they're all great projects and we give them a bunch of numbers. I mean, does that, I'm also taking into consideration how I'm ranking it based on, do I think somebody, rebuilding this town is more, is probably a higher priority than updating their flood. I don't understand, like
Well,
my
right.
scoring is.
I know. It is a little bit confusing, and the planning is, kind of put out separate anyway, because you're allowed a certain amount of money that can go towards those planning grants. But potentially you could say, in the past, we would take all of the plans and say we would put those up at the top, because we wanted all of our plans to be funded. We did not have the set aside we have today. So this is really, like I said, these things are going to fit into the set aside, so they're going to be funded anyway. So it's going to be, and I'm going through this process just because I don't have a way to give it to you outside of showing it to you online. This document that was uploaded was just uploaded today, because I asked him for it yesterday. So it wasn't something I could send the committee ahead of time at all. But in giving somebody a scope of work to see what a project actually is. But yes, we are going to decide on what order we put these in. And then we're going to submit that order to our chief, who will make that final decision of how it gets put into the application. But just a note, I've never seen anybody come back and change. No chiefs have ever come back and said, no, I want this order instead. So usually whatever the committee decides is what it is, is the order it goes in. So I see your point about, what the numbers do. They just help you a little bit, put some legitimacy to why you're deciding to put one above another one. Even though in this case, it doesn't matter if you're number 1 or number 5 in the set aside, because everything is going to get funded. Does that make sense to everybody?
So can we know what all of these are? I mean, if we go through these one by one, won't it be important to know what, if I have to score between 1 and 10 and I give everybody a 10, but then I would go back and go, oh, wait, since I want that one to be ahead of it, I'll give this one a 9.
I know. It's a process. And that's where it's difficult to know how to do this, because conceivably you could rank, you could fill out this form for everything and everybody comes out at the same number. So then what do you do? To decide what order you're going to go in. So I think, you can kind of fill out something as you go along, or you could wait and say, this is, you fill out your form, but then you put it at the top. This is actually the order I would put them in. So regardless of whether they all came up with the same total points, you could say, this is my preference. I believe in my position that this is the order I would put them in. So what I'll ask you guys to do at the end of this is tell me what order are you gonna put everything in? So that we'll know and we can both say, yeah, this is what it came out as. In the past, when we were meeting in person, we would do these and the form was a little different, but the forms we used to have don't follow any of the current program of mitigation at this point. Because there's so many different opportunities for different applications now. So what we would do is have a whiteboard and everybody would fill out their forms individually. And then they'd walk up and write their order of application, you know, what they thought the application should be. So there's 13 people on this committee. I think 8 of you are here. And so we'd have, 8 columns and everybody would put, write their order on there. And then we'd add it up and see what it came out as, because everybody's not always going to agree. You may think, Craig may think, but Andrew may say, and Aaron may say a flood project has to be number 1, so that would be, the types of things that we would do. So a little bit of it is going to be your opinion. A lot of it is probably your opinion.
So are you going to go through, we're still kind of on the Washoe County plan, on the other considerations, are there any that are the 1-point categories that Washoe County has not met? So there are questions like, is the project application complete?
Yeah, I can go through and tell you that because I went through their checklist and I believe that they've updated their stuff. So, honestly, they are complete at this point. Hazard location, resulting problems. I think that stuff is also correct. The BCA or BCR would be a no because it doesn't apply. Is it attached with all the supporting document? That's also a no. These things don't apply because it's a planning grant. So you can either give it a 0 or you could decide to say, as a group, to say that we're going to just say we're not going to, 0 or not included would be the same thing. Scope of work narrative is complete and clear. Do you understand what the project is? Is the jurisdiction committing to provide the 25% match? Yes. No work has begun. And just so everybody understands, when you make an application for mitigation, no work can start until it's been funded by FEMA. So you can't break any ground starting that project. Is the budget detailed, clear and easy to understand? Are the costs reasonable? I can actually go through and tell you on all of these ahead of time, but I don't want to tell you what I'm going to rank them or what I would rank them as. It needs to be your opinion. Did I lose that? And what these guys did was just, include their different things in their stuff. So how would you guys as a committee like to go forward with this? I know it's cumbersome. It's the first time we're doing this.
Janelle, this is Ryan. We ran a very similar program through NDF and process and everything. And it seems to me that the other considerations, those are qualifying criteria, correct? For the
At
most
the bottom, yeah.
So when we ran ours, qualifying criteria was just the gate to let them into the evaluation process. So in most cases, you know, if I was running the program, what I would tell the evaluators was, you know, all of these passed the minimum criteria to be evaluated and awarded if there was money and they ranked high enough. And so those weren't really scored per se. It was just a check in the box.
Makes sense.
So I don't know if we have the ability to adjust the score sheet in such a way that allows that. That way it's, you know, to me, there's little value in assigning opinions to things that should be a hard yes or no criteria for qualification to even go through the process. But otherwise, most of them seem like a judgment thing, and I guess you're going to walk us through somehow the supporting materials that they have submitted so that we can score these appropriately. And then in the end, I guess what we did internally here at our agency was we took everybody's scores and just did a mathematical. And most of the time, with the amount of evaluators that we utilized, which was similar to this committee, the numbers bore out pretty clearly which applications people felt most strongly were worthy of awarding and supporting through the grant program, excuse me. So I don't know if that's helpful information. It's just my experience with something very similar to this that might help us move forward. I will say that when we evaluated these applications, we didn't do it during a meeting because it's really hard as a group to go through the individual materials. I'm not sure how many, if it's all contained within this one page like you have open on your screen right now, that we can obtain enough information to form an opinion and score these, or if it's multiple pages throughout this website. So I'm just unsure on your side how to be most efficient with the process.
I think that's a good suggestion, that the other considerations are kind of a gateway, and unless there's a problem, I've already gone through and done the first one with Washoe County. Just with our discussion here, it could be done with the other three. Remember, this is pretty soft. We're going to fund all of these, or they're all within the funding our set aside. So we don't have to be quite as rigorous, I think, as maybe if there were too many proposals for the funding.
Right, and we only have one competitive project. And so I don't know, I always have a little bit of a, you know, why are we doing this kind of feeling when we look at our set aside, especially with $1 million, which we've never had that much in the past. So we're going to we only have the 3 applications right now. So we could look at what they are, what they're, you know, leave these other considerations, you know, kind of cut it off right there. And that is your basics to, okay, if you did this, then we'll submit your application. And so looking at what order it goes in would be really more these top 3 categories, which, to be honest, doesn't do the best job of saying, how do I pit a planning grant against a project scoping grant, you know, or application, you know, type thing. But
Well, why don't we just finish going through them? We've gone through one. We've got some pretty good ideas here.
you know, so basically I can tell you, maybe giving you a better idea of what they're doing with each project will be easier than, maybe going through and showing me their applications. If that makes a difference to you guys and giving an overview. Like I said, we have the 3 and then we have 1 project. So I think it's more important for you guys to know what the projects are than to have to get, at this point anyway, into the nitty-gritty, because when we order the applications, the competitive, and we only have 1, is always going to go next in line to the things in the set aside. So set aside always starts with number 1 through whatever in an order. And then we add on the competitive. So we just have those 2 different sections there in ordering. So I want you to be aware of what the project is for the Hobart Dam. But in all actuality, it's going to be the next one in line because there's only 1. Does that make sense to everybody, or what are your opinions or thoughts on that?
Yeah, that
Or
makes
did I-
sense. And that would help out a great deal, because considering the fact that we haven't really had a chance to read through them, and actually, and unless you sent something out and I missed it, my apologies. But yeah, your suggestion to at least give us a synopsis of what each project is about, what it's for, and so that we can actually educationally be able to take out bits and pieces to fill in some of what is required here, So that would help.
Okay. So hazard mitigation plans. Washoe County does an excellent job on their applications and on their plans, and following all the rules of what needs to be included, what needs to be done. Hazard mitigation plans updated on a 5-year turnaround. And so Washoe County, as I said before, includes Reno Sparks and the 2 Indian, Pyramid Lake and Reno Sparks Indian Colony. So that's what they're doing in this project. The amount of, let me see here. I'm going to show you the budget real quick. They are doing 90,000 total. So they're at for the federal portion, and then they'll match 22,500 for that. So that's their budget for this update. Last year, or last go around, they did a 300,000 total with a 225 federal ask, and that was because they did some closed basin studies. So that's Washoe County's thing. I had them come out to do 36 months for the turnaround time, just because it's better to go out the full time than to have to ask for an extension. So that's what they've gone ahead and done. So theirs is a hazard mitigation plan update. That's the only one that we have on that. So are there any questions about their hazard mitigation plan update? And Ryan, you still have your hand up. I don't know if you have more to.
My apologies.
No, no worries. I just want to make sure you don't have anything else. Aaron.
Janelle, should we be viewing these in FEMA Go right now ourselves?
Well, the only problem with that is having access to these.
Okay.
To be able to look at the whole thing. And that's why I said part of this is a FEMA Go issue because it's not built out enough. If I was to print it now, there's no way that I can print the full application until it's submitted to FEMA, which is really too late. When at this point, I wouldn't even be able to like print this whole page.
Mhm.
It's cumbersome to do that because their print function is not installed yet or created yet. When it's completed and it's been submitted to FEMA, then it prints as a regular document, which typically in the past, I would have sent you all of these applications ahead of time and you would have been able to review them outside. So hopefully maybe by this next year's go around, when we look at any other applications for HMGP type projects, those are in a document that you can look at the whole thing.
Okay. So right now we're just listening to your synopsis and then trying our best to fill out a form for each application.
Yeah, and thankfully there's not a lot of them. So again, I apologize for that. I just don't have a better way to review this. You know, it'd be great if we could get everybody into FEMA Go, but even getting permissions to get in there can be an issue. So does listening to a synopsis give you enough information
I think it does. It gives us enough to understand what it's about, what it entails, and what it is that, I mean, just to meet the basic criteria of the form, to make sure that when we are making not necessarily decisions, but the point process that we're picking, we do understand what it is that we're doing it for, and also that it does meet what's on the form, you know, just for us to understand what it is about. Because in this case, you said this is for a plan. Or, you know, does the plan, like a quick question, does it protect critical infrastructure? That's a good question. You know, it's plan to go towards that, right? For mitigation of, you know, for critical infrastructure. So that's one of the questions. Does the project protect life or property? Well, in itself, not really, but it's the whole goal for this plan revision to make sure it's updated in order to do that, correct?
right?
Okay.
Yeah, to be able to do a project to protect life and property, to protect critical infrastructure, benefiting the community, you know, relating to the state and local mitigation plans. That's more project specific. You know, is it included where I was talking about earlier about those mitigation actions? That's what that's referring to. Does it provide a long-term solution? You know, I think a plan does. You know, it's required to, in order to submit for any type of projects to do those long-term things. So, yeah, that's where that would be. You know, when you're looking at a plan versus these questions, it's what that plan allows you to do, I think, is the difference between a project itself.
Copy, that helps a lot. Thank you.
So if you guys feel like you know enough about a hazard mitigation plan, I'll move on to the other two set aside applications. And I'll give you an example of the next one. If you, can I get like maybe a thumbs up or something if you're wanting to, if you feel like we can move on to the next one?
Absolutely.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Yeah, not sure where my thumb is, but yeah, let's go.
That's okay. Thumbs are taking yourselves off of mute.
I agree.
Okay.
Thumbs up.
let me go to the next, the next one, let's see here, is going to be, use this. See, they need to fix this because in a couple of years, you're gonna go cross-eyed trying to find applications. Now, this is one that I'm pretty sure has not had the opportunity yet to update do the updates that I've requested on them. So it's fairly lean. It's a new person who's never done an application before. So this is the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility, and they want to do a seismic evaluation of all of their buildings. So this is a project scoping. And what they want to do is evaluate all of their buildings within the water reclamation facility and come up with a list of projects that they can submit applications for seismic retrofit. Or needed, updates to their buildings for this. So this is City of Sparks. And let me just go to their budget here, which is a 400,000 total. So it's actually a 300,000 federal. And the City of Sparks has agreed to provide that extra 100,000 in match. So go back to, I don't think he built this out very far. The scope of work, sometimes when people are newly filling out an application, they do exactly what we don't want them to do. The question might be like down here. Do activities being considered, well, these two questions didn't even actually make sense. What alternatives will be considered? So they're asking you, if you're doing a project scoping, what kind of projects are you going to consider doing? And so their answer was delay of the project due to self-funding and operational budgetary demands. Doesn't really tell you what types of other projects are going to be considered. So that's something I will get back with them on and have them answer that correctly, because they want to know what types of things are you looking at to do. Do the activities being considered align with the mitigation plan? Yes. And that's truly the answer to that question. But what you really want to do is expand on that and say more than just yes. So what he says in the additional comments is the scope of this project includes a complete seismic evaluation of each of the 100 identified structures and process components as identified in the engineer's report and quote dated 11/5 of 2020. So they have gotten a quote and they've uploaded that here, and also given their plant area seismic goals. So there's some work that needs to be done to beef this application up. It's not totally complete yet, but that's part of what the evaluation I went through with that FEMA checklist was. So I'll get back with this agency and we'll complete out what we want to do here. I believe they took a 36-month time frame as well, because they're going to look at all of these against the American Society of Civil Engineers, the ASCE 41 guidance, to create a prioritized list of projects in order to withstand their any seismic events that might happen in that area. So I think, well, I don't give my opinion. they are submitting something so that they can feel like their facilities, they can submit for grant projects in the future that will allow their facilities to be resilient should any kind of seismic event happen that might affect their project. So this one is not complete, but it will be complete before we submit it.
Is this allowed in the local and state plans? There's a bullet on that.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay.
So this follows here in the Washoe County Hazard Mitigation Plan, the current plan, a FEMA approved plan. It addresses the seismic activity in section 4, specifically section 4.5.3 on page 4-22. So they definitely gave where in the local plan that is covered.
And outside of the application being incomplete at this point in time, all the other considerations are appear that they'll be met.
Yes, and as I said, this is a project scoping, so no BCA is required. I apologize, I'm getting an unstable internet connection every once in a while, so if I don't come through, let me know. It is not required to have a BCA when you have a project scoping, because that's essentially considered a type of planning grant where you they're going to do BCA work typically during that project scoping so that they would be ready to be able to do something in the future.
A quick question, the application has the capacity to finish the project within the time frame, the 36 months?
Yes, I believe so. They know, let me look here once. Okay, so each of the 100 structures. And there's just for as an extra piece of information, there are 42 buildings, not 100 buildings, but 100 structures. So 42 buildings, 6 enclosed tanks, 13 galleries, and 39 tank structures. So they'll evaluate things like the anchorage and that type of thing. Looking at the different buildings.
And those do total up to 100, so.
Yeah. So it looks like this would be their total hours. So they did go through there and giving the final. So each building will take 32 person hours, each tank 8 person hours, that type of thing. And they've got this all figured out here. So for a total of 2416 total hours spent on it. 40 hours, it looks like, to complete their final report. And so I would say that, yes, it does look like they can complete that, the required thing that they're talking about in that amount of time, the 36 months.
All right, thank you.
So any other questions on this project? Then with no other questions, I'm going to go on to the third and last application, which just so happens to be actually here, a DEM application, which also probably isn't necessarily so again, this was all of our applications and we haven't, from last year and this year. So this is what I'm going to show you. I need to beef up my final application as well. But basically, this application is to hire a contractor that will gather all the data and information throughout the entire state, and then eventually come up with a GIS map that would tell us exactly where each and every underserved, disadvantaged community is within the state. And the purpose of this is to allow us to do outreach to communities in the state to see how we can come up with mitigation projects that will help these underserved and disadvantaged areas. So basically, when I went through, I did earthquake, flood, and fire. Those are our top three, which is maybe hazard-wise a reason. But as I said, it's a statewide project that's going to collect that data and create a GIS map of all the disadvantaged and underserved communities throughout the entire state. So once we'll go through and put out an RFP for a contractor. What I've done, I don't think I adjusted. Yeah, I did do that. So this is a $240,000 project that we're allowing for that. $180,000 in the federal share, and then $60,000 match, of which I don't have confirmation yet. And I just put a placeholder here because the Truckee River Flood Management Authority is going to provide part of that match. And then I have some other places that I have contacted to try to get some match for people who would have use of this information. So they'll be able to, so this part here is a placeholder. I don't think they're going to give us the full amount. They might, but I think they'll only give us maybe half of it. So as I said before, DEM has to go outside of our agency to get our match for that, for anything that we put in for, because we do not have state funding, or very little of it anyway. So that's really, this is just a basic, it's listed under a planning sub-application because that's what's used for, this would be considered a planning activity. So it's something that would build capacity and capability for our state. And the end goal is to be able to figure out exactly where everybody is so that we can go and do outreach and try to come up with some projects that we can do. So questions on this application?
Same question as before, with the RFP process, you're gonna, before you send that out, obviously you have to meet that match, correct? You have to try you have to secure the match.
Correct. We
Right,
do
okay.
have to secure the total, the final total
Of the match.
of the match. And that's really what I'm waiting on is the letters committing the amount so that we can have that 60,000 that's needed.
Okay,
I don't think it's going to be an issue at all because I've spoken. I just don't have letters of commitment yet.
okay. And then would the applicant have the capacity to finish the project within the timeframe?
Yes, I believe so. It's 36 months again.
Okay, thank you.
This actually is a project that FEMA, one of my FEMA counterpart that I work with actually suggested in a roundabout way. And then I came up with the type of project itself. But it was something that we thought would be helpful, in the state, knowing exactly what, we all know they're out there. We don't always know exactly where they're at or what their needs are.
Sounds like a good project.
So these are the three that I have. I'm just doing a quick add up. So what I have is about approximately 547,000 of that million. So I've spoken with Washoe County, who would like to do a project scoping application potentially. I don't have details yet, but I did speak with their, what they would like to do is a project that redirects water off of Peavine so that it directs it over into Pyramid Lake instead of, so right now Lemon Valley has that closed basin problem that where they had all the flooding and everything in 2017. And interestingly, that type of flooding happens kind of slowly. It wasn't like it happened all at once. That closed basin just kept filling up, and so the water was creeping closer and closer to homes and that type of thing. There's no way to totally cut off that water from going there, but this would drastically reduce the threat and the time how much water would get to Swan Lake and the threat to the homes around there. So that's a project scoping that they're potentially willing to do, which would take up that leftover funding.
Is this the fourth project?
No, I'm just telling you just the three that you need to put in order. Anything else would be put at the bottom of the list. Anything else?
So we're not going to rank the Washoe County.
No, I just want you to be informed.
Okay. Out of curiosity, even though they can't eliminate all, or they can't divert all the water, I assume they're scoping it to the point where they'll mitigate the problem.
Yes. And it just for informational purposes, they back in 2017, or maybe it was 2018, after the thing, they kind of went through what are some potential solutions, but they didn't go far enough to determine what would be reasonable, but just came up with a list of potential solutions, and it's easier said than done. So these are the three that fit into that set aside. And then I'm going to go back here and show you the competitive project, unless you have any more questions on the so this application right here was from last year, and this one is from this year. View their application, and basically what they've done, so they have the Hobart and they have Marlette Lake. So there's also a dam up there that is being, they just submitted their 60% design, and that is actually from a PDM 2018. So it's been a long time coming to get this. Ryan, you got another question? I'm sorry, and the rain. Ryan, go ahead.
I just want to know if we are also scoring this application the same way as we scored the previous three.
Yes, but this is an actual project. And so, yes, do the same thing, just those top three categories. They obviously have met everything because it's a resubmission from last year. They had a great application. Go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, I was just saying thank you.
Oh, okay. Lorraine.
Yeah, are we or whomever told why the project was not funded or what was lacking? Is there any feedback from, I don't know if it'd be from us or from FEMA? Because I saw this one, it looked like last year it was not funded. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Oh, this project we're looking at, Hobart Creek, that was also submitted last year. Was there any explanation or reason given why it was not funded?
There was no reason given because they only gave technical feedback on projects that were up to a certain amount of funding. So ones that got past that level, we did not, and the potential feedback that I received was the building code issue. So we did not get those extra points for building codes at the statewide level. This year, there are some additional things in the NOFO technical review that talk about those disadvantaged and underserved communities and stuff like that. So this is that same project again, trying to beef this up with the additional information, hoping that not being able to get those points for the building codes will not kick us out, make us underneath the cutoff. So if, all we can do is do our best to address each of those technical aspects that they list in the NOFO and then submit, but that, there's no guarantee that these guys will get this application through this year either.
Right,
But
okay, thank you.
that's important.
So it wasn't a specific thing about this proposal, it was more a general thing. What is the resilience they're considering? Is it seismic or flooding?
This is a seismic project. Let me go to their. So this again is a seismic retrofit of the dam up there. So they certainly fit in the, you know, it's, I want to say it's technically feasible, but it is not, that does not refer to the technical aspect of FEMA's review, if that makes sense to you. This is a great project. Can we get it through? I think we keep trying to get it through because of the fact that it's a great project that needs to be done. If an earthquake were to hit that area and destroy that, and everything ends up in Lake Tahoe, what does that mean for us? Ryan, did you have another question or
Yeah.
comment?
Yeah, I'm wondering on the score sheet, it has seismic and non-structural seismic. Can you tell me what the difference is?
Yes, I probably should be having Craig do this. So seismic is going to be the retrofit type thing. Non-structural would be like the items in your building that, you know, that copier that goes wild in some of the videos, the video demonstration that I've seen in our courses in the past. They show a shake table that has like a 3-story office building, and there's a killer copier machine that's plugged in, but it's not, you know, it's not safety, you know, attached to the wall or something like that. That would, you know, that's going to be things like, you know, did you attach your bookcase to the wall so that it doesn't fall over in an earthquake? Have you, you know, put some magnets or door hooks on your kitchen cabinets so that everything doesn't come flying out of your kitchen? I can tell you for one, I went through the Northwest Reno earthquake a while back, and I lost a whole lot of things out of my kitchen cabinets that came falling down. So, and I even knew about this kind of stuff, but I didn't do anything with my kitchen cabinets. But all those types of things, you know, all your things in your office that could go flying off in an earthquake, you know, and knock you in the head.
Yeah, technically non-structural would include the contents as well as non-structural things within a building, such as ductwork and things like that that don't affect the structure, or your ceiling tile system, say, that could fall on you. In this case, it's a dam. And so I would guess the bulk of this is structural. The concern would be whether you'd have an uncontrolled release of water from earthquake damage. There would be some non-structural elements, such as maybe a water release system, the different valves that would control that. But I would guess that the bulk of this is structural.
Would that encompass, because of flood reduction, also, you know, basins, reservoirs, and that could that be considered part of that too? So would you add that part as well? Instead of just it being seismic, I mean, would you add flood reduction? You can click as, I mean, check off as many as the project entails, correct? I'm just asking.
Says the select
Well,
board.
Yeah. That's what I was just gonna say.
Why?
Lorraine, did you have a question or a comment? You had your hand up, but you put it down, I see.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna ask, as far as like this project we're looking at is utility and infrastructure protection. So would it be possible to partner with a private utility and then use their money for the match? Have them kick in something for,
Potentially, yes. These guys have match for this project, so it's not a match issue. But one of the criteria, technical criteria where you can gain extra points is the overmatch. So this is State Public Works. I don't know if I said that before. State Public Works typically overmatches on all of their projects. So, and this is we're looking at a $13.9 million project total, where the federal portion, and you can see here that they're only asking for 71.89%, and their match is at 28.11.
okay, that makes sense.
And so it ends up a $10 million, approximately a little bit over $10 million for federal share. Now, this, at the time they apply, or that they received the Marlette Dam project for 2018, FEMA was doing, each state got one large project. And so that's where they got their project in 2018. Now, what they've done is say you can apply for unlimited competitive projects up to $50 million each. And there's nothing that says each state gets anything. Last year, FEMA picked 10 states and 22 projects. And that's what they funded with the competitive. And then, of course, every state and territory, everybody got their set aside, which was $600,000 last year.
I'll just note that my ranking on this tends to be higher than the other three, just because it is a mitigation project. They're going to fix something. So.
Yes, and this does fall into not the set aside, but the competitive.
Right. So this will be considered a little separate than the other three.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll rank the other three, and this guy is just there, and he'll get a number.
Yes. But these are the projects we have for brick right now. I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, you're okay. I'm just asking, do you need copies of our drafts to send to you upon completion?
Your sheets?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
When you fill those out, if you can get those to me, but what I'll do is ask you to verbally, one by one, tell me which order you put the three applications. And then once that shows, where everybody sits, it'll be then we'll just take a quick, vote saying, yeah, that's what we think. And go from there. That would be the order that we submit to the chief. So you guys let me know if you need more time done or
I'm ready.
you're ready. Aaron, you got a comment or question?
Yeah, I'm still working on it. I was taking notes as you were going down, but I don't have, so for the little sheet, I don't have the full names of the projects. And I did
Oh,
the federal amount.
okay. So let me go back. And I'll tell you what they are, the 3 projects. It's tired.
We might be able to just paraphrase them. It's the Washoe County
Yeah,
plan update, the Truckee Meadows water scoping project, seismic scoping project, and the NDEM underserved communities outreach.
yeah, that's it.
And then for the Hobart Creek,
I think given that there's only one, you could name that as number 1.
okay.
And Hobart Creek is State Public Works.
I didn't get the federal amount requested for the
Um,
Washington County HMP plan.
It's 67.5, so 67,500. And my apologies, I can't go back on there anyway because it's taken forever to go.
And then I did get that the city of Sparks was 300,000, but I don't
Yeah.
have the amount for NDEM.
NDM was 100 and what did I say that was? It was 180,000.
Are you ready to start tabulating or?
Yeah, 1 second. So do you guys want to just, well, let me go in order and just ask you guys. Stephen, do you have your order? I'm gonna quit sharing this. So I can see you guys. Or you can just, when you have an order, tell me, speak up and tell me what they are. Craig, you want to go first?
Sure. My order for the 3 projects is the Washoe County plan is number 1 or the most favored.
Okay.
The DEM underserved communities is number 2. And the Truckee Meadows Water District is number 3.
Thank you very much.
This is Andrew. That's my same order if you want to
Okay.
mark me down.
Great minds.
Yes. Great. We've done this before.
Yes, you have.
who am I- Sorry, Solomon Barton, number 1 for Sparks, number 2 DEM, number 3 Washoe County.
Okay. Let's see, who else was speaking?
Let's see,
up?
this is Kathy.
Okay,
I would put DEM number 1, Sparks number 2, and Washoe County number 3.
okay.
This is Ryan.
Lorraine. Oh, who was that? Ryan?
Yep. I have Sparks as number 1, Washoe County number 2, and DEM number 3.
Thank you. Lorraine, did you have a comment or are you ready to?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay.
I would say DEM number 1, the Water District number 2, and then Washoe County number 3.
Okay, and Aaron,
I would say DEM number 1, Washoe County number 2, City of Sparks number 3.
okay, and then we've got Stephen and Melissa left. Stephen, Melissa.
Yeah, I'll go Washoe 1, DEM 2, Sparks 3.
Okay, and Melissa, you're bringing up the rear. Is she still in here? Or did we lose her? Looks like we don't have Melissa on here anymore, but we are still within our quorum. So let me add these up really quick. And then I'll tell you what the final order ends up. And I will show you guys. I mean, mouse just died, so let me see here. All right, I have to. Pardon me, give me a minute. My mouse died and I got to open my laptop to move this over and show you. Oops. Actually, I just need to share my screen, don't I? Let's see here. Share. Okay. Are you guys able to see my screen where I have this?
Yes.
Okay, so it comes up. And
Oh, wait, all I can see is Janelle Woodward. Oh, okay, there it is.
all right. So this is the order that it came up with. If you can see my little spreadsheet here. DEM first, Washoe County second, and Sparks third, which is really irrelevant, but we've come through that process of doing that. And the next time we'll make sure that this is more workable and that you have copies of everything. That makes it a little bit easier to go through. I thank you for your patience on the FEMA Go system. Not something we have control over, but this would be just the order that we put the applications. It has nothing to do with will they be funded or anything like that. We will continue to make sure everything is complete, as complete as possible, and the best applications. And then of course the competitive project is on its, stands on its own. So that's that process. So I think that the next part, Lorraine would be going back to, let's see here. I think I've lost everything. I'm going to stop sharing. Has everybody seen that, correct? Yeah.
Yes,
Probably.
Stop sharing, right? Yep. Okay. So I think you can go on then, unless Aaron, do you have a comment or question?
No, I'm sorry. I just forgot to lower my hand.
Nope, it's okay. I just want to make sure that we're not forgetting or missing somebody who has something to say. So
Oh, I'm
go
sorry. I
ahead.
do have a question. Do you still need all of our forms filled out, or just does the voting here suffice?
I'll need your forms, but
Okay.
you have time to get those to me. I'll ask for them by the end of the week.
Okay.
I just need them for records.
Okay.
okay, Janelle, all right. So hopefully there's no further discussion, and I will go ahead and close agenda item 7 and move
You
to
still need to
item.
vote on it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So that's okay. Do
We're
we need
almost
to
done though.
do a motion to vote on it, or how do we do this?
Yeah,
I'll let you.
I move that we vote on the slate of prioritization that we just did.
Salome Barton.
Do we have a second? Okay, I'm sorry, who seconded?
Salome Barton.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, we have a motion by DiPolo and a second by Salome Barton. We could just have a vote. All those in favor, please say yay.
Okay.
All right.
Yay.
Or aye, yeah. Anyone opposed, say nay. Okay, the motion carries.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, with that, then I will go ahead and close out item 7, and we'll move on to agenda item 8, which is approved abbreviations or terminology for use with hazard mitigation plans and updates. And this will be for discussion only. Janelle Woodward, State Hazard Mitigation Officer. Ms. Woodward will lead a discussion of the provided Nevada Resiliency Advisory Committee, NRAC, list of approved terminology and abbreviations. The working group will discuss the use of this list for the state hazard mitigation plan update, as well as all county HMPs moving forward. And this is going to promote the standardization of abbreviations within hazard mitigation plans across the state. So once again, please go ahead, Ms. Woodward.
I'm trying to coordinate my little touchpad, and I'm not very coordinated at that. I want to just to go over this. You guys all received this Nevada Threats and Hazards document. This is a document that was apparently approved by the NRAC, or the Nevada Resilience Advisory Committee in the past. And it was brought up by Henderson, asking that we take a look at this and ask everybody to follow this documentation so that we standardize what everybody's calling specific hazards. And this is not an issue like if you're talking about drought or earthquake or flood, that type of thing, but it does come into fruition when we talk about weather hazards, where somebody may somebody may call, I'm trying to think of an example, but people may call different weather events different things. And that potentially could also happen in other threat, natural or not natural, man-made hazards as well. So what the idea is to eventually get our plans kind of on the same page so that we're calling everything the same thing. So there's uniformity between the different counties and the state hazard mitigation plan. So I'll just kind of, you guys should all have this, hopefully. Let me see here, I think. Let me just check once. Oh. I got distracted by all right, let me share this. And it is, this one. And go here. And so what we're looking at is this document that was put out by the DEM and NRAC after the NRAC. So, okay. It's a good thing that we're going to be done pretty soon because everything's not working anymore. Let me go, let's see, try this way. We don't have any revisions yet. Table of contents. So they go through and made a list, active assailant, air quality, chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and explosives, a CBRNE, civil disturbance, cybersecurity, and all these different things. And their purpose was really just, giving us a uniformity, standardized use of terminology. So they go through, active assailant, and then they include underneath that a barricade, hostage. Under air quality, also does, oops, sorry. I am not coordinated to use a touchpad. Carbon emissions, inversion, smoke, those different things are chemical, biological, radiological. They put them in categories and then listed out the hazards underneath them. And they, I indicated to everyone that we have to list out our hazards individually. We can't, just take a category and list them. So they understand that. It's just a matter of using the terms. Let me see if I can find under so like they did geohazards, we have to list out avalanche, earthquakes, fissure, or subsidence, volcanoes, that type of thing. But okay, weather. So extreme heat, a microburst, straight line winds, thunderstorms, and lightning. They want us to call everything the same. And so that's really what I'm introducing to you guys, because you haven't seen this yet. We have tornado listed, winter storms and extreme cold. So is there any, Lorraine, I guess this is just kind of introducing this document to this committee. And so if we can just, see if there's any discussion on this at all.
Okay, thanks, Janelle. Okay, I will go ahead and open this item up for discussion if there's any. Thank you, by the way, Janelle. Andrew?
Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, do you want us to review this and see if we've missed anything, or is there something that we're supposed to do with this? I guess is the first question. Besides just use it as a reference.
Yeah, I think it's just review it, that, this is the approved by NREC already, and this is what, so what I've been told is this is what we're using. And so I just want, you guys have not seen this before, so I do want to bring it to your attention and let you guys review this at, on your own. I don't think, there may be things that, you come up with that maybe in the future need to be, put on that revision page, where they come up with the next revision of this document. Maybe something that they missed. I was not a part of this at all, so I can't really tell you much more than this was brought forth and that committee. So, May, I don't know if you might have been on that committee at the time and recall this list at all.
Actually, it's been a while because I think it's Chief Anderson that is part of the committee now. So I have not, this is the first time I've seen it as well.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I don't recall, but they tell me it was that's how it occurred. But it is a matter of wanting to standardize language in our hazard mitigation plans. Everybody's on a different 5-year, change, and some people just updated their plans, so it's going to be 5 years before they change anything. So this is not going to be a quick fix where everybody's using exactly the same language, but I think the desire for the future is that we start to use the same language. So I would appreciate it if you guys go through this, at your leisure. And if you come up with something that you feel like, needs to be added, or something they've missed or whatever, certainly bring that up. And this can go through, I'll put it forward through the people who put it together.
Yeah, that's what I was going to recommend, that it's a good idea for the state to standardize its terminology a little bit. I think the weather example is a good one. There's different terms people use, and this way everybody kind of knows exactly what somebody's saying. And then I would encourage, if somebody sees something in there that they think could be improved on, that they send Janelle a note and not wait, because you've got it in your mind now. So send Janelle a note, and good effort, I think.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. I might make some comments, but it looks good to me too. I like the idea. Thank you.
Totally agree.
Salome, did you have a?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I totally agree with all the above.
Oh, okay.
Everybody, what they've inputted, I agree with them.
Okay, was there anyone else who wanted to add comments or have any questions? Anyone who is participating by phone from YouTube? just wait a little bit here in case anyone needs to go through that process.
Sorry. Lorraine, are you did you move to the next agenda item?
Not yet.
Okay, you're just asking if there's anybody on any other thing to
Right,
comment on
right.
that.
Anyone
Okay.
calling in? Okay. Well, I'm not hearing anything. Janelle, did you have anything else?
No,
For
that's
this
it. I
item?
just wanted to bring that up. I was asked to bring that, to this committee's attention and, get, bring it up and let them be familiar with it and take a look at it. And so any comments
Yeah.
you have, just let me know.
Yeah, you can go ahead and send ideas to Janelle too. You can email her. Okay, if there's no other activity on this item, I'll go ahead and close out agenda item number 8, and we'll move on to item 9, which is public comment. Again, this is just a discussion item. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda unless the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action may be taken. Public comments may be limited to 3 minutes per person at the discretion of the chair. Comments will not be restricted based on viewpoint. If you'd like to provide testimony during this period of public comment via telephone, please call in by dialing area code 669-219-2599. When prompted to provide the meeting ID, please enter 68673888625 and then press the pound key. When you're prompted for a participant ID, go ahead and press that pound key again. When you're asked to provide comment, go ahead and press *6 to unmute your phone, and then *6 again when your comments are complete. Please be advised that if you're joining us through YouTube, the stream is about 60 to 90 seconds behind the live meeting. So if you would like to present public comment, please call in using the above number or the number already given to hear the meeting live. So I will now open the meeting for any public comment. And we'll go ahead and wait just a little bit longer in case there's anyone calling in.
I can't make out the comment and the barking there.
Yeah. They always have opinions. Okay. Since I'm not hearing anything other than the crew here, I'll go ahead and close agenda item 9 and we'll move on to the next item, addendum 10, which is adjournment for discussion and hopeful action. Just may we please have a motion to adjourn?
Salome Barton motions to adjourn.
Andrew Felice, second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Salome Barton and a second by Andrew Trelease. And is there any further discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. If anyone's opposed, please say nay. Okay, with that, the motion carries and I will call this motion adjourned at 12:19 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you
Yeah,
all.
thank you, Janelle, for your guidance. Okay, have a good rest of your week.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Same.
Yeah.
All righty, bye-bye.